Hello, I'm jdawgg. This is part 4 to the using the editor. We already compiled our map and ran around in it. It was a little bit bright, so right now I'm going to show you how to get Worldspawn settings and lights into your map. I'm going to go File Open. We got to open up my map. My map name is tutorial_room. There it is. Alright. First thing first. I always start off like that. If you have nothing selected, and make sure you don't have anything by hitting escape, and you press the letter N, alright, it brings up your entity window and it should be on Worldspawn. If it's not, click on the arrow until you get to the bottom and click on Worldspawn. When you click on it, it should have class name Worldspawn, and there's probably going to be nothing else here. We need to enter in a few values. Now, included in this zip file was a text file called worldspawn_values.txt, and what that file did was, it's all the original, it's available on Mods Online as well. It's all the original Call of Duty maps and their Worldspawn values. So if you liked the way Karen Tan was lit, copy all those Worldspawn values one by one into here, and your map will have the same exact lighting as Karen Tan. Alright, there we go. Now, before we enter in any Worldspawn values, it's always good to have a Skybox first. I don't know why my mouse is doing that. Again, escape to close out of the entity window. Now, having a Skybox might seem a little bit pointless right now because we don't have an exterior to the map. But just to make things interesting, I'll put in some windows before we continue, or before we actually compile. So go ahead and draw out your Skybox. It's just going to be a brush right now. It's solid. And generally speaking, skyboxes don't have to go down very far below your map, but they should go up pretty high, because if you throw a grenade and it hits your skybox, it's going to morph through and you're going to lose it. So skyboxes are usually pretty tall. And you can tuck your edges in so that they're pretty close to your building for now. I'm going to be adding on something to the, like I said, another room, so I'm going to make room for that second room. And there we go. You can't see anything because, again, it's not hollowed out. If I go to the outside of it, you can see it. And that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to hollow it out. Hit the hollow button, and now you can see the big box. Now select everything by shift left clicking. You're going to press select everything that has to do with the skybox. Don't select your room here. You're gonna hit S, the letter S key, as in Steven. And for textures, like I said, this is a no texture. The way this works is you do sky / and then the sky name. So there are a lot of skies you can choose from, but for now we're just going to use the simple ones, the existing multiplayer map skies. You could even make your own sky if you wanted to. A lot of mappers do that. But let's say we wanted to use Karen Tan's map. So we do sky / MP_Karen Tan. Hit enter. If it turns red, that means you have it right. Or if it turns into a whole bunch of little sky, it'll look crappy. It'll be like a repeated sky over and over and over again. That means you got it right. Don't worry, it's not going to look like that in game. So red grid, or if you see the sky textures, you're good. If you still see the blue and black grid, you're bad. There we go. We're going to have a sky texture. Technically, you don't need this bottom one, but it's always good to have it because it takes care of map leaks. It's kind of a... You'll understand that later. Inside the room. Now, I'm going to make a little windows along this side of the wall. Alright? We'll do this side of the wall. I'm going to show you how to use the CSG subtract button, and this is, again, where other mappers are going, oh, idiot. But there's nothing wrong with it. So, what we got to do for CSG subtract, we're working on grid 8, because that's where we've always been working on. It's where we built this room on. And I'm just going to drag out a brush, and it's still using that other texture, so I'm going to find my caulking and apply the caulking to it. It's using that sky texture, and you're just going to resize it in your window, or in your 2D window here, and you're going to get it so that it's about the size of a window frame. And go ahead and morph it into your wall so that it sticks, it passes all the way through your wall and out the other side. Don't have it going too far. You don't want it to go through your Skybox, otherwise we're going to wind up cutting a hole through your Skybox. Whatever this passes through is going to get cut here in a minute. So there we go. That's a good size for a window. And I'm going to go ahead and hit spacebar to duplicate this, and duplicate that. I'm going to make another window over next to it, because usually windows come in pairs, right? And I'm getting all nitpicky now. I got to stop. This is just a tutorial. So you only want to do one at a time. Select the first window that we made here, and again it's passing through this wall, and it's going to act like a cookie cutter. If we come up here and hover over this button, we see CSG subtract. If you click it, it doesn't look like it did anything. But if you hit backspace to delete the brush we have selected, it made a hole through the wall. And what does CSG subtract do now? The CSG subtract tool is like using a clipper. Alright? What it did is it split this wall into 6 pieces, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 pieces. It split it into 5 pieces and deleted the 5th piece, which is in the center. That's all it did. Alright? It's the same thing. I'm going to Control Z a few times until I make the wall solid again. There we go. I'm going to get rid of this piece here. I'm going to use the clipper tool. Alright? Well, we'll go ahead and... I changed my mind. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Punch my hole through. Over here, this hasn't been cut yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into the wall. CSG subtract it. If I move it away, I don't have to hit backspace. I can just simply move it away and it'll have the same effect. It can still cut it out. It cuts it as soon as you hit the CSG subtract button. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this on the Z-axis, and I'm going to line it up over here. Now let's say that I wanted to make this sized window using the clipper tool, which is the way people are going to suggest. Alright, I'm not going to have it actually morphing into the wall. I'm not even going to be using it. I'm using it just for perspective, because I know that's how wide to make my window. So I'd highlight this wall, nothing else selected. I click this button up here called Clipper. I press it down, and now I can right click and move my view around and everything. Now I click first where I'm going to, it's like putting your pencil down on a piece of paper. You're going to put 2 points down. There's 3-point clipping, but that's more complicated. If you put down your pencil onto a piece of paper and drop your pencil, there we go. If you put it on a piece of paper and then you have another pencil and you put another pencil down on another side, the opposite end of the piece of paper, and then if you draw an imaginary perfectly straight line to each point of your pencil, that's what we're going to be doing here. And where we draw that line, it's going to make a slice through everything in your map that you have selected. It doesn't matter how long you make the slit or not, it's just going to, that slit is telling it which direction the slit's moving, and it's going to infinitely extend that line out in every direction. Alright? So, note, I have the clipper depressed. If I clip once here, and then I clip once here, it cut through that wall. Control Z to... That was really weird. Alright, hit escape and it undoes a cut. Alright, I didn't want that cut, that was weird. Depress the clipper. Clip once here, clip twice there. There we go. That's what it should have done. And it clipped away the wall. Now, we don't want that whole section of the wall to be missing, do we? So we're going to Shift Enter, and it restores it, but keeps the slice. So it slid all the way through that wall. Hit escape to deselect. I'm going to select only this half of it. I'm going to press the clipper, because this is the dimensions of the window, right? This is how wide the window is going to be. So I'm going to come to the outside to show you this one. I'm going to clip here, and I'm going to clip way over here. It did the same thing. It cut. It doesn't matter how long I did it. It made a slit through only what you have selected on that plane. And Shift Enter to restore it, because I don't want this whole middle section to be gone. Hit escape a few times. Now you're going to select only this middle piece, and you're going to come down to your YZ side. You're going to press the clipper, and then we're going to go across the top. And now if you're having trouble telling, this right here, you can see it highlighting in red and unhighlighting in red, is the top part and the bottom part of the window. I want this window to have the same dimensions as this one. So, oops, what am I doing? So I'm going to select this, hit the clipper, I'm going to click here, and here, There it is. Shift Enter to restore it. I'm going to clip here and here. Shift Enter to restore it. There we go. I can hit Escape, deselect. I can select just the middle. Backspace to delete it. I'll move my actual little window frame out of the way, and there we go. I have the same exact thing over here. This wall got split up into pieces as well. Just like this wall. It just got split up in a different orientation, alright? They did the same thing. There's nothing wrong. That took a lot longer. There's nothing wrong with using the CSG subtract button if you're doing windows or doorways, for instance. Alright? It's when people take a complex polygon, like a hexagon or an octagon, and they try to cut with that using CSG subtract, you can start making really weird oddities to your map. But you're not going to do that, right? So, for making doorways and windows, I recommend CSG subtract. Saves you time. I'll get rid of that because I don't need it. So now I have my windows. There we go. Now I also said before we go ahead and test this map, I'm going to add on another room. And the reason being I want to add some Worldspawn and I want to add some lights. So over here, I'm going to use my nifty little CSG subtract tool. I'm going to grab my wall. Right now, this is a good time to show you what I just did. I painted that brush. It has the same dimensions as the wall, and as you can see, we got the Z fighting going on. But there's no real effective way to grab that wall, because if I shift left click, it's highlighting this wall. Just shift left click again, and it'll highlight what's underneath this wall, and then shift left click on this wall to deselect the actual wall. And now we can make this protrude out. That way, it's easier to select. That's why I protruded out. And before I do anything else, I'm going to pull my actor over here as a perspective for my doorway. Highlight my doorway, resize it down. It's a pretty good size for a doorway, don't you think? So I have it selected. I'm going to CSG subtract it, hit the backspace button, and there we go. Now we have a doorway that's going to lead out into the abyss. You're just going to fall infinite. Well, you're going to fall until you hit the skybox. That's why I'm going to make another room over here. Perfectly adjacent to that wall, I'm painting a new brush. The same exact dimensions as this other brush. Relatively the same. I think that's about right. And then I'm going to hollow this one out. Never hollow more than one thing at a time, folks. Just keep that in mind. Just like you never want to CSG subtract with two brushes. Alright, there we go. I'm going to delete this whole wall because I don't need that wall. And it conveniently lined up because remember, our corners, we didn't do the whole hit E and drag in yet. So our corners should be already lined flush up against this wall. So we're all set. We just have to texture it. However, first we do have to do the other corners of this room. This doesn't take too long. And I don't want to do that one because I want it to go flush up against that wall. There's no Z fighting. We come to the outside. Well, you couldn't tell anyway, but there's no Z fighting. Now, alright, now I have to apply new textures to this new room that I just added on. So we're going to go ahead and go to our textures, Normandy walls. There's some tricks to texturing, but I'll explain those as we get in a later tutorial. There's a good wall. So again, Control Shift left click just to get the faces. Get all the faces of these walls. We applied a new wall texture, and we'll go ahead and Normandy floors. Apply this floor to this room. And for our ceiling, even though this is technically a floor texture, like I said, it doesn't matter. You can use it as a ceiling. So I just have one of those ceilings. Again, angling your camera up and down by pressing the A or Z key on your keyboard. Alright, there's a few things that are off about this. Alright, first of all, these windows have caulking on their windowsill. That's no good. Alright, we got to change that to something like a border. And in here on this doorway, the reason why it's not caulk is because we cut through the bottom of it as well. so it took the texture and bent it up. It's hard to explain, but we basically, just imagine, even if it was caulk, we still have to redo that one as well. So, and one more thing, this floorboard goes from this texture to this texture almost instantly. There is no transition, so it's going to look kind of crappy. Alright, so first thing first, let's go to Textures, Normandy Trim, and we'll find a good wood trim. There it is. Control Shift left click. Let's get all the vertical, because I'm gonna do these as well. So I'm getting all the vertical faces. I'm gonna apply this texture to all of them at once. There we go. And now we'll go ahead and get all the horizontal faces. Apply that texture to it. There we go. Now these are going to be off because this window is at a different plane as the doorway and that window down here. So what we're going to do is deselect. We have to select only this face and only this face. Hit S to bring up our surface inspector, and then we can rotate the texture 90 degrees by clicking the up arrow twice. And now if we hit escape right now on the surface inspector, it undoes whatever we did. Alright, so the way we close our surface inspector, we'll rotate it, click up here in the texture box, and then just hit enter, and it closes it in the texture field. And then you can hit escape and it saves it. So now it kind of still looks a little crappy because we don't actually have a border. You know, I think what I would actually do is make a little border coming off of it, like a little lip. Like a frame, like a picture frame around all my windows, and I'd probably do the same thing around the door. But right now it's suitable. And yeah, this little instant transition between this floorboard and that floorboard looks kind of crappy, but you know, I'll have another tutorial that covers little tricks that you can do to take away those creases. Alright, so right now we have a skybox in our room. Now because there's a skybox, it's going to put in Worldspawn technically. And what it's going to do is if you spawn into the map now, everything's going to be like black. It's going to be pitch black. Because there's no lights, basically. And we don't have any defined world spawn values. So, without anything selected, press escape a whole bunch of times, press N. And it brings up the entity box. And we got our world spawn. If you click on world spawn there, you can scroll to the bottom here. And you got world spawn. Class name world spawn. The key and value box. Now included in this tutorial, I think I already went over this. We got this Worldspawn underscore values.txt file, and that has all of the stock maps, the multiplayer maps, stuff like that. Their Worldspawn values. So you can take those directly from that if you want. Right now, though, we really only need like 3, so I'm going to put that in. Let's say it's going to be a daytime map. So outside it's going to be day, and inside it's going to be like it's going to be day outside. So inside, if there's no lights, then it's just going to have to be lit where the windows are, right? So for the key, we're going to have sunlight. Hit tab to go to the value. The value can be 1.5. It's going to be a pretty bright day. 1 would be kind of dim, like cloudy day. 1.5 is a nice sunny day. If you put in 2, it's starting to get over bright. You have to have some pretty good map to play with a sunlight setting of 2. And I'm going to bring that back up. We're not done. For our new key, we're going to type in, and don't worry, we're not going to be replacing the sunlight key here. I can delete it. The sunlight key is still up here. So our new key is going to be ambient. Tab, and we're going to give ambient of 0.25. It's going to be pretty dark. I'm going to do a 0.3 ambient. Hit enter. It didn't enter. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. And then another one, we're going to do underscore color, and this is giving the ambient some color. And it goes by, if you come up here, it tells you everything you can enter in. You can even change the gravity for your map, so the server doesn't have to do it. There's underscore color. Ambient light color, RGB triple, must be used with ambient. So we wouldn't do underscore color if we didn't have ambient, but we would always have ambient. So an RGB triple is either 000 or 255, 255, 255, any numbers within that range. And the first number being how much red light, the second number is how much green, and the third one is blue, RGB. So I'm going to make this just 888888. Pretty neutral color. Hit escape. So that's really all we needed. We need the underscore color, the ambient, and the sunlight. There's also like diffuse fraction, and you probably will want those with your final build of the map. But right now, this is going to be enough to get us decent lighting. Now, if I were to spawn in, it's going to be a pretty dark room because there are no lights, and it's going to be all in the shade. And the ambient is 0.3, and that's pretty dark shade. Realistically, though, ambient's going to be like 0.2, but I know that if I do it, when I compile it, I'm going to be using a fast viz, and it's 0.2 is going to be really dark, and it's going to look bad. So what I'm going to have this room has no windows, it's going to be very dark. I'm going to put some lights in here. So the way you put in a light is you got to put in an entity first. You right click, and you go to, well, you go to light. There is an entity for light. I'm thinking a different radiant. Now you got to go down to the side view, and you got to raise it up. And this little, well, big circle is, and you guessed it, that's how bright the light's going to be. If you have the light selected, remember, don't want anything else selected but the light. Alright, and you press N. It brings up the light's properties. And we need to change the value called light, or the key called light. And then our value, let's put in 100 for now. And you see that the box shrunk. If we get in, it's still going to be very bright. This room's going to be extremely bright. So I'm going to put the value as 50 and enter. And let's go ahead to the side view and take a look at this. It's still going to be very bright. Alright, that means anything out to all the way up here is still going to be a little bit lit by this light bulb. And right here it's going to be very, very brightly lit. So this is just a fast light. There are ways to make a nice light so that it doesn't get over bright on the ceiling, etc. You can even make spotlights, but this is just a basic light. So I'm going to try 20, and alright, I'll do 15. I have to deleted my light. Let's try 10. Alright, 10's probably good. There we go, and there is no actual light model, this is just going to be a light hanging there, but that's okay. So I have my light value of, what did I say, 10? Yep. And there we go. It shows up green in the 2D window you don't have selected. So now we're going to spawn in, and it should look better now. It's going to have realistic lighting. Alright, so first thing obviously is save the map, and that made it create that .map file. We can close out of the Radiant, and we're going to go ahead to our program files, Call of Duty, UO, maps, MP, back out, maps, tutorial underscore room dot map. We got to take this and we got to copy it, and we got to paste it into the MP folder. First, delete your tutorial underscore room dot PRT, your dot poly, and your dot BSP. Delete all those, all three of those, because we're going to create new ones. And then go ahead and paste your new dot map file in. Overwrite the existing one. Notice it got a lot bigger because we added a lot. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and run our batch file. Since we didn't rename the map, we shouldn't have to do anything with the batch file that we already made. So just run it again. And now that we have lighting, we have Worldspawn settings, a Skybox, we have lights. It's going to be a bit longer for a compile, but not that much, because we're using a fast flare operation. And the bigger the map, the longer it's going to take to compile. There we go. See, there's more steps to it now, and that was still pretty quick. And there they are. There's our three files up there. I'm going to put them down here so we can find them again later. Now we can go ahead and load up Call of Duty multiplayer. Alright, remember, start new server, dedicated no, pure no, we're only deathmatch, bring down the console, type in our map name, load it up. There we go. Again, I have that mod in my folder, so it's going to look all... I have my own crosshair. But outside, we have our sky, and it's pretty light. And you got the light coming through the windows. Alright. In here, we have our one light, and as you can see, it's causing over brightness on that ceiling. It really didn't do too much, but as I walk under it, I can see my gun getting slightly lit. I probably could have made that light rather than 10. I could have made it like 20, but you get the idea. And there we go. Now we have two rooms linked with a doorway, and we got our windows with light coming through. We didn't specify a sun direction, so by default, I guess the sun's shining in on this side of the building, looking this way. But that's another value you'd want to enter in manually, is the sun direction. And that deals with the all pitch and roll, but I'll get into that in another tutorial. So that's more basics. That's adding on a second room, and you know, everything worked out, so I hope that helped.